is I was asked to talk a little bit about David. And while I know David reasonably well, obviously he's been in my house a lot of times. In fact, when David comes to my house, he sort of becomes me. He eats my food, drinks my beer, sits in my chair. But I was asked to roast him just a little bit. And you know, for those of you who don't know me, this is pretty uncomfortable for me. I mean, talking in front of people like this, you never really know exactly how it's going to work out. So Karen said I had to do this. And Karen and I have been married for 28 years, so of course I'm afraid of her. So I said, well, honey, what am I going to say? She said, well, I don't know, we'll figure it out. So I started to do some research. The first thing I did, you know, because there's two things you got to do to talk. You got to do some research and you got to write it down. Research, write, research, write. So I started to do some research, and I thought, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call some people. So I called a whole bunch of people, and I said, David Kalani. And a lot of them said, I don't need one. I persevered, I kept at it, and I wasn't getting any responses. So then I thought, well, you know, maybe I should call people that know him. And I thought, I'm going to call people, I'm going to find people that have been in his past that would know him. And I'm going to do the best I can to try to find out a little bit about the true David. I'm going to do the best I can. But you know, it was hard. It was hard. You saw these slides. What a cute guy. What a cute guy. Cute baby. I'm sure he was cute when he was a teenager. I'm sure he was cute as he was going up to school. I know he's cute as he's drinking my beer. So I kept looking. You know, I kept looking for something about David. I really, you never know where research is going to lead you. True research starts, you know, at a kind of a core place. You just kind of let it go where it goes. And, you know, so I kept looking. I kept looking around, and I really couldn't find a whole lot. So I finally decided I was going to call his coaches. So, you know, he's had a lot of coaches along the way, a lot of different sports. You saw that. I mean, you saw that, you know, he's been doing a lot of stuff, you know, so I figured a coach would really sort of know, you know, a little bit about him. And the coaches were universal. They said to him, they said, you know, oh, David is a great guy. He's caring. He is sincere. He works hard. You know, when David takes up a sport, you saw the sport. You saw him jumping into those holes. I mean, my God, how much dedication do you have to be to dig a big hole and then jump into it for sport? So, you know, I talked to a lot of his coaches, and to a person, they all said, David is a fine young man, and I can't think of anything that you can say about him that would even be mildly amusing. So I kept looking. David, I kept looking. I looked among his Cincinnati friends, and I talked to Cincinnati friends. Now, a lot of his Cincinnati friends, you know, as it turns out, they don't have last names. In fact, they're Christian names, things like Mudflap. But I kept looking, you know, so I talked to a couple of them. I talked to Mudflap, I talked to Roadkill, and a couple of his other buddies. And I said, what can you tell me about David that I can actually talk about in front of a group here? And Mudflap said, well, he drives that red Volkswagen, you know, and that was as good as it got. I didn't have anything to work with. I just didn't have anything to work with in order to sort of talk about David. So I kept on researching. Research, writing. I mean, it's just a concept. You got to do this. If you're going to get quality, you got to do the research, and then you got to write it down. So I kept on talking. You know what I thought? I thought maybe I'll call the local authorities. So David lives in Cincinnati, so I called, you know, the mayor's office. And I said, David Kalani? He said, no, thank you, I had one. It was so hard. It was so hard. So, you know, I kept doing my research, and what I found was that, again, there was just not a lot to talk about. kept looking, and I kept looking, and I finally stumbled on this restaurant. It was a really nice restaurant down by where they live. I know they've kind of been there once or twice. And I went in there, and I said to the waitress, David Klonick, she hit me. So, you know, I thought, well, okay, this is a good lead. This is a good lead, because she only hit me once. It was okay. So, so I was talking to her, and I said, do you know him? Do you know David? And she said, yeah, he comes in here every now and then. What a nice guy. So, you know, another blind out, but I was writing all this down. I just wanted to be sure. And she was very helpful. She was very helpful. She said, would you like a couple of cannolis as you leave? And I said, sure. So I kind of got a couple of cannolis. And, but again, no, it just wasn't much of a lead. I mean, I've got weeks into this thing. I am researching this guy. Think about the people I've talked to. I've talked to a lot of his childhood friends. I've talked to Mudflap here in town. Almost got arrested while we were doing it. I talked to the waitress. You know, I still just couldn't find anything. So I kept looking. I looked a lot. And what I found was that David was actually you know, he started a lot of things just sort of on his own. And, you know, sometimes things kind of caught fire and sometimes they didn't. But still, nothing really worth talking about. I'm sorry. I wish I could do this better. So, you know, I finally came to the conclusion that there just wasn't going to be a lot of... There was not going to be a lot of stuff that I could really sort of dig out. Because, you know, he comes to my house, he eats my food, drinks my beer, sits in my chair, but, you know, other than that, he's a good guy. He's a really good guy. So, you know, I'm afraid that at the end of all this work, I really couldn't really that was really worthwhile talking about. I'm sorry that you've come. Some of you have traveled thousands of miles to come witness this, and I wish that I had a little more that I could actually use, but it's hard, you know, and I don't want to slander the guy. I mean, for God's sake, it's going to be my son-in-law. You know, you can only imagine. So, you know, you got to kind of work through what you have. You can't overplay your hand. You don't want to, you don't want to overdo this, because at the end of the day, you know, if you say something about the guy that's not really working, it's really a problem. Now, David, I will tell you that I have known Kristen, obviously, since she was really tiny. And I've gotten to know you over the last couple of years, and I've seen some of your eccentricities. And I would say that based on my in-depth knowledge of Kristen and her eccentricities, I would tell you, folks, you can't make this stuff up. I would tell you that I don't have anything to report about my future son-in-law. He is a wonderful guy. He obviously loves my oldest daughter, and she obviously loves him. And David, if you bring another set of hollow candles to my house, I'm going to have to ask you to leave.